Do you want to kick us off?
All right, I can kick us off. Elon, let me know when we are live. Elon is our sound engineer, come cybersecurity engineer, come everything.
Got it.
All right.
I think we're live.
All right. Hello, welcome to our LinkedIn Live, which we are doing after a long time. And our guest today is Liza Katsman. I met Liza at a networking event around a month back, and I was discussing with her how it is hard for somebody like us who work remotely on Zoom, occasionally in person, maybe once a month, to have a cohesive team that functions autonomously and in a self motivated manner. And Liza is a leadership coach. She has all the answers. And since this is live, this is unscripted, Liza would probably be grilling me and figuring out all the things I did wrong. And I'm happy to learn from her. And I hope some of you also get some value from this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sammy. I really would say that you overhyped me a little bit. I definitely don't have all the answers. The hope is that you actually have a lot of the answers and that I ask the questions to help you get there. And I definitely will not be grilling you. Although sometimes when we get stuck in a question and answer, it can perhaps feel that way, but certainly that is not the goal. We want to make sure that, we're engaging in a conversation where you can extract and pull out as much of the information out of your own mind, your own organization that you can. And I'm just here to prompt that and, you know, maybe provide some guidance where it might be best and necessary. So, since this is our first session, I don't have, a ton of background and sessions to go off of. We'll just, kind of start from directly from a current issue that you're facing, whether it be a specific employee, a specific instance, maybe something that you have coming up that, is a challenge that you are anticipating facing. So if you would like to kind of bring something to the table, we can dig a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, careful security has been around for 5 to 6 years. So, we survived that 5 year mark. So, hopefully, we'll survive for even longer. Um, what, as a company grows, like when I started my business, and I was like, why would somebody want to work for me? And that I would just hire anybody who I met. So, in the first call, and then just because I liked what they said, and also I didn't have a good verification process or vetting process. Now I want to take some of that responsibility myself, that I didn't have a good interviewing process. The other part is, and this is again my weakness comes strength, is like I like to optimize the process so that we provide the maximum value to the customer. So occasionally we have uh, removed what's not working and updated with what's working. Now, another problem that we had was lack of documentation. Because we are dealing with so many clients, we didn't have a documented process on how to get things done. Having said that, I think a lot of the employees that we had over the last 5 or 6 years, they all had their own motivations, and I respect those motivations. What I've realized of late is for someone to work in a startup entrepreneurial culture, they have to be flexible, ready to wear many hats, and be autonomous, self motivated, and come with new ideas. Like, I'm not the person. I realized that I was being the person who was kind of directing them on what to do, but I was being a bottleneck. So, having learned all these lessons, I want to, look into a brighter future going ahead. That's like a background.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I think that the challenges that you faced and this growth is something very, very common, especially kind of hiring talent, bringing new people in is something that most people, unless they came from another organization where that was a lot of what they were doing, doing a lot of hiring. And even in large organizations, I see this process not being done super well or not with the right parameters in mind. So I think it's a very, very common and widespread challenge is really aligning talent and the needs of the talent to the goals and the mission of the organization. Where would you say that your current challenge is right now that would be helpful for you to talk through or brainstorm that we could talk through together today?
Yeah. So right now we are going through a busy audit season. We are also building a dashboard that will hopefully solve some of these issues. Um, Segue, the dashboard answers this question: what is the single most important thing I should focus on today? Um, but could you repeat the question? I thought I had an answer and then I digressed.
That's okay. What is a, challenge or something that would be helpful for you to, brainstorm or try and talk through to get to a solution or to brainstorm or get some insight around?
Yeah, absolutely, Liza. So I've been speaking to, an HR advisor from the government. I mean, I've been working with her, but she told me that we need to build an autonomous, like, performance evaluation system so that employees know what is expected from them and they can self-evaluate themselves rather than, you know, and that makes it so transparent. So one of our challenges right now is to write down job responsibilities, which in itself is a challenge in an entrepreneurial startup environment because you have to wear many hats. But also how, what are the criteria for success? Is the criteria for success doing the same thing over and over again? Or is the criteria for success in adding value and making things better and more optimized, and then, really going above and beyond?
And how many people are on your team?
Right now, we are in a phase of transition. So there are not too many people, but we are rebuilding the team, and we are starting to revamp our hiring process as to not necessarily hire from based on LinkedIn, but like look into the startup job boards and see, the people who have that mindset.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, well, ironically, we're on LinkedIn right now, so don't diss them because they'll kick us off the live. They'll kick us off the platform. Um, so my question for you is, when you think about an ideal employee or an ideal team member, how would you describe them?
So I was just discussing this with one of our champions in the team. And it's like I heard somewhere the ideal team member is somebody who doesn't need to be told what to do on a daily basis. Um, is that too simplistic? Uh, I really think that ideal team member is somebody who can reduce, you know, in a personal way, my workload. And an ideal team member is somebody who has the best interests of the company and, has this innovative mindset and does not do things just routinely or ask for constant feedbacks or needs to be prodded, or motivated in whatever way. Yeah, I don't know. Does that person exist, Liza?
I mean, I think that somebody who is innovative and motivated and adds to an organization or a team certainly exists. My question is, have you been that employee?
Yeah, of course.
What allowed you to be that person?
Oh, when I was an employee, have I been that employee?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think I'll, since we are being transparent here, right? I have had organizations where I come in with a lot of new ideas and, things that need to be done. But sometimes I would get a pushback from management. And then I would kind of hold myself back. Um, I have not had great managers during my career. And so when I started, I had that intention that I will not be that person. Uh, but maybe a part of me has become that person. And I don't know. But yeah, I think an ideal uh, employee is somebody who's given the freedom and bandwidth to do what they want. I have always admired that when I was given that freedom and um, leverage to and not being kind of not nitpicked on every little little mistakes. I think that's one of the things I need to learn how to let it slide, so that the employee is not demotivated. At the
Right.
same time, how being a small company, how do we focus on quality? Yeah. And so it's a balance, right? So that's why if there's an autonomous system, it's like, I, yeah,
So, what's interesting, and I hear the word autonomous used, and typically, something that's completely autonomous is essentially a machine,
right,
and human beings are not machines because, people have, life situations, values, circumstances change, you know, the the way in which they work over time based on, like you said, what happened to you, where you started a certain way in an organization and then you would get pushback or you wouldn't get, the response that you needed. And then it actually changed how you operate, how you relate to the organization. And so maybe that's a space where you felt like you started autonomously. And then even if you kept going autonomously, the output changed. The machine broke, right?
right, right.
And so, where I think it's important, especially right now,
Hmm.
in a time of AI, right? And we're seeing a huge shift in the way things are done. AI does can do certain things autonomously. It's important to ask, what is the value that human beings still bring?
Right.
And it's not to become machines.
Mm.
right?
Okay.
And so, you know, where I would like to kind of probe next is what is important to you about working with people as opposed to if you could just push a button and have AI do everything or a machine do everything.
Right. I'll let you know. I think a machine or an AI doesn't have a Friday evening productivity level versus a Monday morning productivity level. A machine is not going through a breakup, or a machine is not having financial crisis, or a machine doesn't have family issues, right? So I think one of the reasons, the reason I'm coming back to this autonomous is like, we all go through life experiences on a continuous basis. And based on that, we deliver, our work quality goes up and down, or the feedback that we give is up and, goes up and down, right? So if we are feeling happy and they're like, great. But if we are not so feeling so happy, we just kind of nitpick, these are human natures. Um, so if there is a way to build more transparency so that we can take out those variables, that would be great.
Why do you think transparency will take out some of the variables of, human needs and things like that?
Right. So, so Liza, let's say we are having this call, you know, we are having this call on a Monday morning where you have a ton of things on your plate. And we are having this call on a Friday afternoon where you're wrapping up your week. Or somebody is listening. Let's say there's someone listening to this on a Monday morning versus a Friday afternoon. The content doesn't change, but the way they perceive it might change.
Right. Right.
So,
I mean,
mhm,
which is completely accurate.
mhm.
And so where would you want transparency to come in say that type of a situation?
where where things are evaluated neutrally, you know like sometimes, and I've seen this in big organizations too, right? If you like a person, even if they do terrible work, you're like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. Or if you do not like a person for whatever reason, even if they do good work, you just throw it into the trash. So I feel that's a issue that every organization goes through. So can we have a process where you are judged on your ability and skills and not like how well you get along with people, which is important. I'm not saying that is not important, but you know, some that's I'm kind of stepping back to a bigger issue than just my organization. Yeah.
Do you have an evaluative system?
I don't. That's why I think we need to build one where it is kind of a very, an evaluative system that you can self-evaluate. Everybody can self-evaluate themselves based on the same set of criteria, or.
Where do you think limitations come in when you put in a self-evaluative system?
Nobody's going to use it. That's the reality.
Well, I don't necessarily think that's true. People like structure. I think some people really like structure.
Right. Right.
But let's pretend that everyone is using it perfectly, a self-evaluative system. Where do you think there might be friction or limitation to that?
I think the rules of the game. right? So once you and the every team member agrees that these are the rules of the game that we all want to play it, because let's say we have this HR.ai, which kind of takes all your work and based on these rules evaluates itself. So I might have a different set of rules, whereas somebody else might have a different set of rules, right? Somebody might like structure, like people judge other people based on what they bring to the table, right? So if somebody like structure, they like somebody who's like structure. Somebody who's like kind of more spontaneous, they might like someone who's more, spontaneous. So that's where.
How accurate do you think people's perceptions are of themselves?
I think I read somewhere there is like some kind of square box where it's what you think of yourself versus what other people think of themselves and all that stuff. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, 50% or
There's no exact number, but it's not 100%. All we know is
right,
that it's not 100%, right? It's like
right,
somebody says, "Oh my gosh, like I'm a great driver." And then if they were to go take a driving test, maybe not
right.
so much, right?
Hmm.
And so, that is something that makes me wonder when we talk about the self-evaluative system,
Hmm.
where might there be gaps or considerations for you to make moving forward if you take that reality into consideration about self-evaluation?
Yeah. So it kind of takes away to a certain extent the perception factor where somebody thinks they're a great driver, but the machine is noting that you're making sudden breaks and sudden turns, and it's evaluating itself on that.
Right. Is that something that right now is going to have a follow-up or some kind of a stopgap, or is there something that you have in place to take that into consideration and add the layer of the piece that self-evaluation might miss?
No, I mean we'll work on it next week. So if you have any thoughts on on how you would build a self-evaluative system, that would be great to hear as well.
I mean, I think that, you know, organizations and teams, they work, you know, right, like kind of like cogs, where if one stops, all the other ones are impacted.
Mm,
Or if one breaks or starts working weird, all the other ones start working weird. And if that cog thinks that they're doing everything fine,
yeah,
but then everything starts potentially breaking around them, then we sometimes as human beings say, oh, it's that person's fault, it's that person's fault, it's that person's fault.
yeah.
And that is where it's important to have, you know, layers of collaboration and assessment in which, one, it is safe for people to be able to give one another feedback, and there's a
Mm,
structure and a expectation of that to happen, and people are taught how to do that in a way that's effective,
mm,
because based on my experience, people aren't super great at giving feedback or asking
right,
for feedback. So
right.
that's a system that's, yes, it can be automated, but I think that's where the human aspect is really, really important. So you can follow up, ask questions, etc. And also some type of a system where people can talk about errors that they made, questions that they have, you know, concerns about the future of some project. And it's not just something that you mentioned earlier was, oh, you kind of just like let mistakes go by and it's fine, right? But I think that we can take errors and missteps and actually use them to the benefit of the person or the organization and say, oh, that error that you made, why? Right? Is there a system that's broken? Is there something that needs to be fixed? Is there some kind of a gap in communication that's happening? And so we want to be thoughtful. Be so instead of just saying, "Oh, it's not the mistake is not a big deal,"
Right.
almost saying, "Oh, that's thank you for bringing that to the table. We can now utilize that as a way to improve operation, collaboration, relationships, whatever it may be." And that the how we deal with mistakes and feedback, that is what builds a truly psychologically safe organization where people can then feel okay about, oh, okay, well, I'm doing this thing on my own. Now I feel now I feel okay and safe if I made a mistake on some part of it, or if I have to bring something to Sammy and say, oof,
Mm.
like this isn't really working. And I
Mhm.
think it might be because of, a few misalignments on the team, or something is on the back end system. Can we explore that a little bit better? As opposed to a an implied messaging that you have to self-assess yourself, and that means you have to figure it all out on your own too.
Right. No, that's a great point. We can call this episode "Celebrating Mistakes and Feedback" with Liza Katsman. I One last question.
Absolutely.
I think, I mean, this is just a thought I was having. I'm like, AI, what's the next thing? It'll probably be NI, natural intelligence, which will take care of
Mm,
human emotions and all that. But I personally, what are the mistakes people do when providing feedbacks, and what's some good way of providing feedbacks that you have shared? You know.
yeah. Um, Something that is very, very, very common that I see when people provide feedback is a commentary on, on who or how a person is,
Mm,
as opposed to a change of behavior of some sort or a mistake in behavior, right? So, for example, somebody turns in reports late, right? And there's like, oh, like, you're so irresponsible,
right.
as opposed to, hey, I noticed that there's this deadline on the reports and they keep coming in a day late and the reports are really good. Can we talk about why there's always a time gap between the expected delivery date and the, you know, and when they're actually coming in? And you may find out from that, oh, actually, these reports take a lot longer than I'm allotted.
Right.
And I care more about them being quality than them being turned in on time, because I notice that a bunch of people send me things late and it doesn't seem like that big of a deal here.
Right. That's a great point.
And so that allows for understanding, oh, that behavior has nothing to do with you being lazy. You actually are just more of a stickler for accuracy and quality. And maybe it hasn't been communicated super well, or it's not a very clear behavior around the rest of the organization that timeliness is deeply important.
Wow. Great points. Like, what is really holding you back, rather than coming to a snap judgment. Yeah.
Right. And so people will, unfortunately, when we get feedback, we we even when it is behavior that is being mentioned, we do tend to fight back and say,
Right.
"Oh, well, are you saying I'm lazy? Are you saying I'm incapable or whatever? And in that case, right, we want to be aware and pre-prepare ourselves for what might this person think I'm saying about them, and just say, the quality is really good, and I think that you're a really capable employee, and so I just want to have a conversation about this specific gap in behavior. So being aware ahead of time of the fact that someone may be hearing something that's a lot worse than
Right.
what you are intending to say to them.
Awesome,
And
Liza.
yeah, and just
This
pre-preparing for that.
No, this was very helpful. Where can people? How can people get in touch with you? And you know,
Yeah,
anything you want
absolutely.
to share?
My pretty much all of my places are the same. So my email is lizakcoaching@gmail.com. My website is lizakcoaching.com. My Instagram, which I don't use very much, but I'm going to start using more. Same thing, Liza K Coaching. So same name, same handle everywhere. And you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm obviously co-host of this session, so probably the easiest place to find me. I'm on there all the time, every day. So yeah.
And who are your typical clients, and how do you help them?
Yeah, my typical clients, I work with both, business owners, entrepreneurs, and internal organizational leaders. Anything from, middle management up to more senior management. And I work with people both, oftentimes on the internal, so personal patterns, hesitations, fears, fear of moving forward, personal growth and goals, and then also how to navigate more of the organizational, so team dynamics, organizational dynamics. So I also do training, like leadership development training. So sometimes I talk to, organizations of hundreds of people, talking about some of these concepts of as well, of how to have, effective feedback conversations, creating psychological safety, etc. So really, anything around the personal and the interpersonal, both with entrepreneurs and organizations and their leaders.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Please,
much for asking.
thank you, Liza. Please go hire Liza, because what she pointed out, that human beings cannot be 100% autonomous. Not
Yeah.
yet. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Take care.
Sammy. And thank you,
Mhm.
everyone.
Thank you.